Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Backspace Nomad podcast, a podcast focused on gaming discussion, reviews, and stories about how gaming has affected our lives. This is episode 1 of this brand new cast that we're deciding to launch now, and we're very excited to have you guys here for the inaugural episode, probably the only inauguration you're going to enjoy this weekend. So congrats to you, you're very welcome. My name's Brian, and I am only 1/3 of the host for this cast, so let me really quickly introduce you to the very cool Monica.
Hi.
And of course, the actual walking meme himself, Josh.
Oh, holla.
So this is
the walking meme.
The walking meme.
Walking and talking.
Every day of his life. So this is the first cast of the show, and very quickly before we join into the guts of what the show is going to be, we kind of want to introduce ourselves, do a little background on who we are and how we got this cast off the ground and what we want it to be. So Monica, if you want to start us out with a little background on you.
Well, my mother's name is Anita, and I was in her womb for about 9 months. From that point, I have jumped straight into adulthood, actually. And I guess on a serious note, a little bit about me. I, Twitch-wise, have been a streamer and content creator for about a year. Very active with conventions. Outside of that, I have a ton of different hobbies. I'm always jumping in to weird and fabulous new creative outlets, and this being one of the newest. And I'm glad to be here.
Very cool. Josh, what's up? Who are you?
It's Good. Many of you know me by that name. IRL, I'm a computer engineer / web developer / project manager
/ tech daddy.
One man band, and according to these guys and gal, tech daddy. But I stream probably about once a year. That's going to change with this. I developed a very small following doing that, and mostly helped other people build up things. So I game in my free time, but for the most part, I spend most of my life sitting in a computer chair. That's probably the most interesting thing about me outside of my outdoor life. But we'll save that for another day. I think we need to go ahead and get this show rolling.
Thanks, Tech Daddy. So I'm Brian. I've been on Twitch for about 1.5 to 2 years. I was introduced to it by a family member and just kind of got addicted to it. I mainly do creative streaming now here, creating pixel art and stuff. In my real life, I spent about the last 9 to 10 years of my life in restaurants as a line cook, sous chef, you name it. I've done it in the back of the house of a restaurant. And I'm very excited to kind of be here.
You name it, he's done it in the back of the restaurant.
I'm not even talking about just food creation. It's the whole deal, the lifestyle. It's been done. And
you guys have ever eaten sushi off of a girl's body in the back of the restaurant?
We haven't ate stuff off a girl's body, but we've done other things. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's Brian.
It's good. It's just who I am.
Brian.
I've grown up, I've matured, but I've learned to accept myself, much like my peers. I think we should kind of talk about how this podcast kind of came to be. I think loosely, I don't know about Josh, but I was loosely connected to Monica's stream. She found me randomly on Twitch one night. We were streaming the same game. She hosted me. And ever since there, I kind of started checking her community out and became closer friends with her online to where I was invited out to TwitchCon and met Mr. Josh Good over there. And I think at TwitchCon is kind of where this idea, I don't know about you guys, but for me, probably by the second day of TwitchCon hanging out, because we stayed at an Airbnb together, I was just thinking to myself, these guys are just cool as fuck to hang out with. It's a total hang. It's a blast. We're laughing all the fucking time. We should probably do something together.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Monica texted me one day. If you want to tell that story, just what you were thinking when you texted me and what you sent me.
I have been in a little bit of a creative rut. I feel like for me personally, working alongside other people is more inspirational than working just by myself. And so I was really excited by the dynamic that I experienced at TwitchCon. It was a little overwhelming, actually, TwitchCon the last trip, but being around these guys made it really chill. And I knew that if I was going to continue to be a content creator on Twitch, I wanted to change things up. I've always treated it as more of a hobby.
Sure.
So I reached out. I mean, the story is that I texted you, Brian. Like, you already told the story. I don't know.
It's what you texted me.
Am I supposed to find the text? Like,
no, I remember it because I cherish the memory in my heart. Okay?
Oh.
It was you and Josh were talking, and I think you guys had said, let's do a podcast. And I don't know if I told you on my end, but like I had said something to my chick like a week earlier. I was like, we should just like fucking do a podcast. Like it's so fucking fun. Josh is just hysterical. Monica's like fucking out there and so creative and just exciting to like be around. I don't know. What do you remember about Josh?
Yeah. So during TwitchCon, it was very apparent that for one, we had a unique skill set, but the personalities just sort of mended together very well. So as soon as we get back, I'm on Discord and I'm like, Monica, we got to do something here. She sort of started the conversation first on that though, but I had been thinking it. And then next we were like, well, let's just ask Brian. And that's how we ended up here. We weren't sure exactly what we were going to do. Podcasts was probably one of the more direct things that we could jump right into.
Yeah, we didn't know initially what we wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do something. And I didn't know if it was going to be related to Twitch or what, but we landed on where we are now. And I am so excited to be creating this with you both and to see where it takes us.
Cool. I think like my only final thought on it is, for the last year and a half to 2 years, like me streaming and watching what other people are creating, like I kind of just like do creative streaming to make art. I've done gaming. This idea to add something to like the gaming sphere that's more than just a playthrough, that's actually a discussion, like a sit down where we get to know people and like find out real good stories about what people's lives are with gaming, adds another layer that I don't think I get to experience too much on the internet in terms of like content, like devouring and just watching everything. So that's why I'm most excited about this. And over the past 3 months, like I've become very like fond of what we're doing. I think the world of you guys, and I'm excited for where this is gonna go. I said I wasn't gonna do this.
I didn't sign up for this.
Sorry. So let me give you guys a rundown for what the show is gonna be tonight. The first thing we're gonna do is get into a discussion about microtransactions in gaming with a little point counterpoint. After that, we're going to be doing a review of the game, The Butterfly Sign by the developer Quantum Phoenix. And after that, we're going to have a sit-down interview for the time of the game where Hirona tells us about, I don't want to spoil this, I wanted to call it.
Don't spoil it.
It's what she played.
She's doing the time of game.
The time of game. And it's going to be very... I don't know. I'm actually excited what you're telling us about. The time of game?
No, it's going to be very time of gaming. Okay. You guys just wait and you'll find out.
All right. So
the words will make sense later.
It's perfect. Let's start out with our discussion then. I think this came about because Monica was expressing to me how she's gotten addicted to, what was the game? Game of
War.
So let's get into... She's like she's become addicted to microtransactions, I think. So we're gonna do a little point counterpoint on microtransaction. Monica, why do you love microtransactions?
Okay, I don't want to jump straight into microtransactions. I just want to say that Game of War is a mobile game that happens to include microtransactions if you want to get good. Okay.
If you want to get good.
If you want to get good, if you don't want to spend the rest of your life waiting to get good, you just pay to get good. No, I did divulge that I was playing a lot of Game of War. Apparently, that should be embarrassing for me. And
We're here to find out.
shortly after I told Brian about this, he sent me a link about a man who had embezzled $1 million and spent it on the game. And so, the jokes just keep coming. But
No.
the game is not that great, I guess. But there are microtransactions, and I have paid for them. I also paid for microtransactions for Pokemon Go, though. So,
Without locking down a specific number to spare your embarrassment, can you ballpark us how much has been spent on Game of War?
okay, I can tell you that the average player on Game of War spends $550 per year.
Jesus.
Okay. Josh?
My goodness.
And microtransactions on Game of War, their packs actually start at $5,
Okay.
but they go all the way up to $99, and the $99 packs are the most popular.
Well, Josh, why aren't you good at games, dude?
Yeah, why do you suck?
So this is where my despair for microtransactions come. Now, I can give you many examples of where microtransactions have been great and aren't a problem, but the issue comes down to pay to win. And it's not necessarily impactful towards me because I don't play cell phone games that much.
Okay.
But the fact that a couple of decent MMOs have been deeply just ripped apart by the fact that the publisher and the developer got together later on after launch and decided to open up a cash shop that would turn these games pay to win. So that's microtransactions, the bad part for me. But coming down to a cell phone game, many of these games have utilized human action studies to figure out exactly what they need to do, where they need to put things to lead an individual to make a purchase. And I've never bought a single thing in a cell phone game cash shop.
So you are a loser, is what you're saying.
Mostly I lose a lot. But I don't want to throw them dollar bills at a damn cell phone game. I can barely do that on the MMO. And I don't play the MMOs that have cash shops like that. WoW, I play that, but those aren't pay to win. Those are pay to accessorize.
Okay. Monica, why shouldn't developers use science against you? Respond.
Okay, so I want to point out that just because you're paying to play doesn't necessarily mean you're paying to win. It depends on how the game is set up. The games that tend to do the best in regards to microtransactions often have a social aspect. So you are wanting to compete with people that you're actually getting to know. You're working in a guild, you're working in a clan. Game of War is actually similar. You're working with an alliance. And your purchases help the entire group.
Okay.
I want to say this. I think that free to play, if a lot of games wouldn't have any adoption rate without there being free to play. That's going to stick around, and people have to be able to make some amount of money. Now, is it $550 per person? Probably not, but that game is actually one of the most popular mobile games in existence and has been for a very long time. And so there is something that people are getting out of it. Maybe part of it is peer pressure. Part of it is to be able to compete. But I will say personally, the reason why I've spent money on Game of War is because I was getting hours and hours and hours out of gameplay. And I think in general, people will not invest unless they enjoy the game. You're not going to invest money unless you're getting something out of it. I will put $60 down on a AAA title and be able to play that for 25 hours. And instead, I'm playing a game that I've really gotten into, that I enjoy. And, if I put $50 down on that, I'm getting the same amount of hours out of it. So
That sounds
What
all
do you
Josh,
what do you
hold on.
buy?
Let me phrase this for
I
you.
want to know what she's buying.
What are you buying, Monica? Tell us.
What's she buying?
Friendship. No, just kidding.
No, what? Yeah, what?
Josh,
what are
why
them
shouldn't the
credits?
1% Americans buy friendship to band together and defeat the poor people of this country? Tell me.
Right.
Tell me.
Because these are socially engineered for these people to spend money on this.
Everything's
the
socially
worst-
engineered. Do you not buy deodorant, dude?
Yeah, so let me give you a good example
you just
of
look at this
a
Good point.
That's socially engineered to make you ashamed of yourself.
a good example of microtransactions is PlanetSide 2. It's a MMO FPS.
Real world
Not
example.
pay to win, and that's a PC game though. So the world of microtransactions on mobile and on PC are very different. But the sort of underlying premise of some of the more scummy things that you see apply to both worlds. I think the most confusing to me is I can understand like Game of War with the social aspect, but then you see like Candy Crush, man, like all the reports of how much people have spent on Candy Crush. They're like, I'm like, God, these people are addicted, and they're designed to be that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I just personally, I can't play something like that, and the issue is this is seeping into like games that are directed to children, and they're just hoping that the payments are turned on so the kids can just hit. Kanye West, for example, came into this issue and he tweeted out a rant.
Oh,
and I think
Lord.
if a game is made for a 2-year-old, just allow them to have fun and give the parents a break for Christ's sake.
Preach.
So if
Thank you,
Kanye West doesn't like microtransactions, and I guess I got to hop on Cloud Kanye.
Monica, how do you respond to Kanye? Last word to you.
I don't like you.
Me or Kanye?
No, Kanye. You're fine.
Oh,
Okay, respond to you as
You're
Mr.
fine.
Mr. Yeezy then, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all we got time for this discussion. I don't know who the winner is, but both of you know
Me.
my PayPal if you want to send me and buy the win.
I'll send you.
You are
some
more than welcome.
I'll send you some microtransactions.
Thank you, Josh. Josh gets the win for Point Counterpoint with Monica and Josh.
What?
That's all we got. That's it. It's over.
All right, fine, whatever.
You
We'll do
tried.
this segment again in the future. We'll do it again.
It was a valiant effort.
We'll have some tally points
Who's
Yeah.
grading this?
over here, and
Who's grading?
we'll let people poll it. But right now, we do have the
I'm
monitor.
going to pay for the polls to be in my favor.
They're wrong, as we can see. Okay? Nothing is real anymore. All right, so let's get out of that. I don't even know how to transition that. But let's start talking about the game that we're reviewing for your Sunday morning download. This game, The Butterfly Sign, published and developed by Quantum Phoenix, a small, I think very small, indie game studio out of the Ukraine. You can pick this game up for $5. I'm sorry, $4.99 on Steam right now if you'd like to. I really think I don't even know where to begin with this game. Monica, let me get your initial impression of when you loaded this game up.
Oh. Well, my initial impression was that I said start new game and nothing happened. And so then I tried pressing other buttons on the main menu and it would just kind of glitch and still nothing would happen. So initially I was like, oh, is this one of those games where like before you can even jump into the game, you've got to figure something out? And it really wasn't. It was just not working.
Josh,
So
initial heads up, new game. What happened?
Hit the new game and instantly crashed. So we hopped back in, made sure everything was good. Then I started going through the menu. I noticed the menu didn't pause the game. But once I actually was in it and I was walking around, I felt like I was in one of the more recent Sherlock Holmes games. I don't know if you've played those, but I could definitely feel like the roaming around, and there was a little bit instantly sort of detectiveness going on. So I felt like I was in Sherlock Holmes. And then once I got the first nibble of the story, I'm not going to go into any detail. We'll get there. But I felt like I was in Assassin's Creed mixed with Sherlock Holmes. So it was like Assassin Sherlock Holmes Creed with no assassinations. But
all right, I think I kind of agree with you.
I'll stop there.
Like, I had a lot of trouble with the initial menu system. I accidentally exit out of the game because it was so weird. You load up and you choose your difficulties, but they don't really kind of make sense to you at all. And then right from the get-go, you're just sitting there like, what the fuck is going on? And not in a good way. Like, there are things that will screw your mind up and be like, yes, what's going on? This is awesome. This game, not so much. But let's start with like the basics. I think the least offending thing about this game, the sound. Monica, how did you feel about the sound?
I felt okay about it. At first I thought it was going to be scary because there's a lot of, I guess, atmosphere that's intended to intimidate you and make you feel as though you're in a very creepy place. And it is an asylum, so, in the middle of nowhere. But past that, there would just be sometimes some noise to horrify you. I am a big pansy when it comes to scary games, so I won't lie. For the first 20 minutes, I was petrified until I realized that that's really all that was going to happen, was that I might hear the sound of a crowbar falling on the ground, and that there was no reason to be concerned.
So,
okay.
Josh, let's move on with this.
Right.
How do you feel about the sound in the butterfly sign?
So the developer pretty much brags about the sound on the Steam page. And I felt overall it had good atmospheric sound, but it definitely wasn't to the lengths that the developers bragged about it. That's pretty much all I got to say. I had to turn it down. It hurt my earballs pretty bad. And when I was streaming it for a moment, I had to bump it up so the stream could hear it because it was just way too loud on my side.
Mm-hmm. I will say the sound is just... The only thing I say about the sound is how weird it was when the main character of the story was talking to you like you're reading a novel while you're playing the game. I don't know where else to put this inside of the overall game. It's not gameplay, it's just sound design and what's going on. And it just, I think at one point he tells you about a waterfall that's been there forever and how the time, the sands of time stop for no man. And I'm just like, why are you doing this? And who did the voiceovers for this game?
Yeah, I guess I would, I don't consider that so much sound as much as writing. The writing itself was at times bizarre, and then at other times erotic. I mean, the way he described things, I was like, what are you trying to do? He's like, the deep limbs of the tree ached for, oh yes, what is going on? And I didn't want anyone that was watching me play this to know how titillated I was becoming, but it was intense.
The dialogue was definitely questionable, and that was probably one of the worst, outside of some of the bugs. That was one of the worst parts of the game. And I don't know if it was lost in translation or what, but the dialogue definitely, it as immersive as they tried to make it, the dialogue kept on throwing me right back into reality.
Absolutely. Let's tackle the graphics next. Oh, what do you got?
There was something else that threw me back into reality, and that was the fact that the way you find out how to do things in the game is plastered in a billboard.
Bring up graphics. This is the most stunning use of graphics I've experienced in 2017. Tell me about the billboards, Monica.
I loved the billboards. I loved that I would be in this creepy atmosphere. There's chains jingling, aching tree branches. And then all of a sudden I just come up on a sign that's floating in the middle of the room, and it tells me how to turn and operate a computer.
Yes.
Thank you, sign. I appreciate that. I've never been able to just click on that computer and figured that out myself. Much appreciated. For people like me that can't get through a single puzzle in any type of game, it is really helpful to have step-by-step instruction. By the way, this does have puzzles in it. I don't think they're that complicated. I didn't have a hard time with the second one, but for some reason, the first one, let's not talk about it.
Graphics wise, the developers brag on their Steam page about graphics as well. It's got excellent graphics, and I could definitely tell they focused on some high resolution textures, but it totally gets ruined by the visual effects. You've got bloom over here, you've got some weird kaleidoscope shit going on behind you, you've got like the dude is nearsighted because he can't see a mountain clearly. It's like blurred out. Like, dude, need some glasses or contacts. So all the effort they put into high resolution textures, which the actual like character models were not that high resolution.
No.
Definitely there was textures here and there that were high resolution. All the effort they put into that was totally thrown out with just the visual effect overload.
Sure.
That they should have pulled back a little bit.
Visual effect overload, and you would also be in a room and it would have no lights in that room. And there would just be a glare coming off of a ladder.
Yeah.
That lit the entire thing up. It made no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my biggest problem with the graphics out of the whole game is that they feel like they were all just purchased off some marketplace. These developers didn't make any texture. They didn't make any model. And because of that, the game felt, when you're going through it, like it just didn't have its own heart. It just felt like you had a kid who just came out of his game development school, knows how to put the game together. It's like, I just need this graphics. Oh, if I put this effect here, they won't notice because it's kind of shitty. It definitely does. It's the biggest favor.
Worked. I never noticed it was shitty.
Well, I think their biggest thing they did to themselves is using the Unreal 4 engine, which by itself is beautiful. And all the things you can buy on its marketplace are beautiful. But to me, they felt they were like just stitched together. Because all of a sudden, then you see a security guard where you haven't seen any models yet. He's laying there with a gun and he's like flexing, and then you click on him, and then this huge like glow just comes straight out at you like you solved a mystery. And then the next thing you know, you're in a basement with a girl and her shadow is on the wall. And I'm out of order here, but it's just
I don't even know what you're talking about, actually. Like, what parts are you talking about? Girl in the basement.
She was in the generator room in the very bottom after you couldn't activate the elevator. Her shadow's just like swinging on the wall.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the shadows. Yeah, I had a problem with that.
It felt like I've seen this in a game. This is cool. Let me try and grab that and put this in my game. There's no heart to anything that they did graphically in this game. Is my point I'm trying to make. And then when you go to the puzzle games, the puzzles aren't tied into the world when you're solving them. It's a pop-up, here's a 2-day image, you try and figure the puzzle out, but there's no like... You
gotta fix the circuit.
Yes.
With error. Like, it's like you're looking at a circuit blueprint instead of looking at the physical circuits.
Yeah, it's not tied into the world. That's my biggest problem. It's beautiful, but not because of anything they really did.
Right.
Okay, so we're gonna start in on the story. I've got... Besides just talking about the overall story, if you can figure it out, let me know from both of you real quick. When you're offered a drug at the very beginning, did you take it or did you turn it down?
I turned it down.
Okay, straight edge.
I don't do drugs. Okay.
I didn't know what was going on. I don't even remember what I did the first time or the second time.
Correct. Okay.
There you go for good story. Yeah, I do. You
gotta take the drug.
We'll talk about that later.
If you're offered a drug in life, it's only polite, please. So, what was the story for you, Monica? Because it was a little hard for me to pick up. So, what do you got from it?
Okay, here's my idea of what the story is. You're a man.
I'm a
And,
man.
and you spent some time at an asylum. And at this asylum, they're testing a drug, only one drug, on all these people at the asylum. And there's mercenaries, and they hate all the crazy people at this asylum, and they want to kill them. Do that at some point, and you are going back through your memories and piecing together why you're at this asylum and why these mercenaries wanted to kill all the people that were doing drugs. And did I get it?
I think so. You got parts of it.
I have no clue. All I know is I felt like I was in the memory stuff, kind of like Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I really got from it. And some dude killed himself. That's it. That's all I remember.
What was your guys' response though when you're in the asylum and then you find that area and they're like, the mercenaries got in this way? And it's just like, whoa!
Out of nowhere. I thought the
There were
mercenaries. I was
mercs?
game for anything. I was like, I'm high as fuck right now. Yeah, there's mercenaries here.
Yeah.
Obviously.
That's true.
You're in a dream sequence from the very beginning. Like Josh said, it's kind of Assassin's Creed like. You're walking through, all of a sudden you find a dead body, and then there's mercenaries who obviously kill the dead body because that's the only one at the asylum. And then later on you start to find out that you're a really extremely rich dude, very, very wealthy, very wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Well, he was missing his loan payments.
Oh.
So I don't know how wealthy he was.
Yeah, he wasn't.
I read
wealthy.
his email.
He was that.
Yeah.
at one point he had a lot of money, and then now he can't repay that money. And that's as far as I got. At the very end, you're like at a train and someone killed themselves. You don't know why you're rich, and then the chapter just kind of ends itself, right? Is that where we're at?
Right. And this is a chapter game. So this was just the very first chapter of a series, so that you can continue to find out more about the story. But I think I might have already have it figured out.
Let us know.
I think that he used all of his money to make a music video like Rebecca Black, and it tanked. And he was so distraught over his purchase that he ended up in an asylum where he had to take drugs to like redo his brain, and mercenaries came to kill him because of his really shitty song.
I think you think your song was shitty?
Yes.
I think the mercenaries thought they were coming there for a concert, and then they find everyone's high as fuck. Well, we got guns on us.
Get pissed.
Fuck this.
Oh,
All
all right.
We got pissed.
All right. Fine.
Right.
Touche.
It's a short 2-hour game.
I don't even know if it was 2 hours. I'm pretty sure when I sat down and actually played it, like it was pushing like with the cutscenes included, it was pushing like 45 minutes.
Okay. It's like an hour.
And the only reason why, so you forcibly would walk slower at times for no reason. And I'm pretty sure that was intentional because they were like,
Make the game longer.
I mean, sure, it's only $4.99 or whatever, but damn.
Damn, girl. I guess I don't think any of us would replay this chapter. When chapter 2 gets released, whenever, are you going to come back and play it?
No.
Josh?
Well, you know what? I will say this. From a group perspective, I wouldn't come back and play it by myself in my room. But we had a lot of fun playing through this game. It was funny. There were a lot of good parts, and I think if you are hanging out with friends or and you're playing a game together, I think it's pretty fun. I will say that. I think it's fun, but not from the perspective that they wanted it to be. More from like a haha, look at how bad this is.
You want the second chapter for all the wrong reasons.
I want to know. I want to find out the song lyrics.
Can't wait. Josh?
I think that there's so many bug issues with this one. I'm going to give the second chapter a try, just to see if they sort of redeem themselves. but overall, I'm not really driven to. My favorite part of this game, or my only favorite part, the only part I felt was worthy, was the in-game browser. Did you guys actually try to browse the internet on the computers in there? Yeah, I pulled up the stream and stuff. Like you could actively browse the game on there. I'm sure it took up a bunch of resources, but that was the only part I really liked about this game. It wasn't original, and there was just so many bugs and so many game mechanic issues that I don't know. It's going to be interesting if they fix that or if they redeem themselves in Chapter 2.
All right. By the way, real quick, Monica, I seen you trying to load up Chatterbait, and you like quickly nope the fuck out of that on your stream. When you're loading up the web browser, you're like, yes, Chatterbait. No, that's a bad idea.
I was like gonna click it, and then I'm like, wait, what am I doing?
Any last words, final opinions on this?
I guess as a whole, your game shouldn't crash. You should be able to adjust. There were so many dark parts in that game where there's the only light source is coming from like a can on the ground. And you can't adjust the lighting in the game. It crashed on me. And I had to restart, and it restarted from the beginning. I think that happened to Josh as well. The story isn't quite there for me in Chapter 1, but I also thought it was ridiculous enough that I would be interested in at least streaming it again, just because we had a lot of fun commentary about it.
All right, Josh.
The game intentionally slows you down to get a few extra minutes to make it not seem like you just wasted $4 on 40 minutes of very mediocre gameplay. If you even any more than 40 minutes was probably spent on fixing bugs. It's just way too buggy. I couldn't recommend it until we figure out what happens with Chapter 2. But yeah, it's just not there, and they brag about the game way too much on the Steam's page, so they may be too proud to fix their own bugs. I couldn't even adjust my graphics. You would go in and I would turn things down. I was messing around with stuff. I wanted to turn the effects down, and it wouldn't save. So I couldn't even save my graphics changes.
Because they were already so perfect, you don't need to change them.
You don't need to change. You don't need that. So no. Generic, and just I wanted to like it. I can't recommend it.
All right. I think I'm in the same boat with you. I don't want to be too agreeable with everybody, but when I seen that last dead body near the train, I felt that's kind of the player. Like, you just killed it. There's nothing that hooked me for the second chapter. It's like this guy killed himself, and I don't really care why. So I'm right there with you guys. I feel like I paid $5. I got about $250, $250 worth of that $5, and I'm out. I'm done. Quantum Phoenix, why do you do this to us? So that's it. The Butterfly Sign available on Steam for $5 from Quantum Phoenix, developed and published. If you feel like you want to take a journey, go for it. It's up to you. You've heard it here. But that's all we got. We're going to take a quick intermission, and when we come back, we're going to have our special guest on, Hirona, for the time of the game. We'll be right back, buddies.
We are back and ready to jump into our final segment, the time of game. The time of game is where gaming nostalgia meets the memories of everyday life. We add a question that jumps into a story of our guest past. And today, our guest of honor is someone who just finished eating an entire bag of salt and vinegar chips. Hirona.
Hi. Hiya.
Welcome to the show, milady.
How are you guys?
Fantastic.
I like the game you guys were talking about before. Kind of reminds me of what was that spooky game where you're like a reporter and you go to the asylum thing? Was it like Last of Us?
You mean Outlast?
Yeah, Outlast. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually got those vibes from it. That's why I was petrified for the first 10 minutes. And then I realized I wasn't going to be threatened to be raped by any mutilated.
Yeah, I got to the point where like there's those two like twin dudes and they're standing there and you just see their giant dongs and my chat's just like, this is totally normal, like
Exactly
acceptable on my channel. And so I was like, I think we have to like hurry along now. And then they keep calling you and they're like, we're gonna put our dicks in you. And it's like, all right, I gotta go.
It's basically that, but no dicks in you.
Oh well, it's not worth it.
That's the only good part.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the viewers and talking about a little bit about your current events with your creative streaming.
Yeah, so I'm Hirona. Actually, I started out Twitch being a World of Warcraft streamer, and then when Twitch Creative kind of opened up, I made a very blunt transition into just trying to do creative streams. And it's either it's freelance work or designing t-shirts for myself or doing work for people on Twitch, or sometimes if I get contracted and there's like no NDA, like I'll design assets and we kind of just like hang out and talk shit to each other. And then
you're very good at that. You're
yes,
an excellent shit talker.
Best shit talker.
Mm-hmm. That's so nice.
So
nice.
I'm so glad to have you with us. And our question to every guest we will have on this show is, what is your time of game?
So for me, and I know it's been a long time and I haven't actually played the current expansion, but it is World of Warcraft, the Burning Crusade. And that the whole world of Warcraft and that particular time in my life and what was going on and my transition to actually even being playing video games or specifically an MMO was really huge. When I first started, I was dating a guy and I was dating a man. So at the time I was like steadily like, like getting laid, and someone was really, really interested in me, and he had expressed to me that he played World of Warcraft, and I was like, why? Like, do you think you're like a wizard or something? And he's like, no, it's more than that. And I'm just like, okay, fireball, like whatever, dude. I was really into, I play a lot of Halo and a lot of Counter-Strike, first-person shooter, telling kids that they're like adopted and like telling them that, their mistakes and all that kind of stuff on the internet.
Right.
But we had lived really far away. And at the time I had gotten diagnosed with cancer, and to kind of help me socialize a little bit because I wasn't going out. I worked Monday through Friday, and then I went to school from 6 to 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And then I got home at 1, and that was my day. That was just like my whole entire week. And since he lived far away, he was like, well, this is something that we can do together. And I'm just like,
cyber.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I come over to his place and I bring my laptop with me. That is actually the laptop that the school issued me because I was going to school to become an animator. And so we put World of War. I remember going to Walmart in the middle of the night, buying World of Warcraft and the expansion, the Burning Crusade, and I drove over to his house and we installed it. And I'm sitting there and I'm clicking through all the classes and the factions, and there's the Blood Elves, and they look, I guess at the time I'm like, wow, these things are like really slutty, and and I was like, this is great. And my boyfriend at the time had explained to me that like they were like the new race, and it was this big deal because Horde now had paladins, and and he's like, you should play paladin. It's kind of up your, you can fight, you can heal, you can tank, you can do all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And I thought that the paladins or the blood elf chicks just look like spank bank material because they're like, their boobs and butts are everywhere, and they're just all like,
did you spank your bank to them?
No, but my plan was to become the blood elf and go into Orgrimmar because my boyfriend had told me that I could like dance for money, and if dudes found out that I was a chick, I could get gold, and then with gold I could buy materials so I can like get other stuff. So I was like, I'm sold. God. I don't care. And I'm like, I'm gonna have so many internet boyfriends, this is gonna be great. And so when I came up with the name, yeah, well, at the time my gaming handle was Violent Queef. And I was trying really hard, and I wanted the name. This is so bad, and I was trying to come up with a new name. And Violent Queef was like my Halo competitive like name, and that name became from this other name, which is Chocolate Thunder Pussy, which is a name that I was like, this is really rad when I was 17, and so I wanted these names to be a part of my thing, but there was not enough characters for it, and I also didn't want to get banned. And I thought the Blood Elves looked like they're just like hentai, they're tentacle rape and all this stuff. So I looked up like a Japanese porn star, and there's this porn star named Hirona Ray. You guys can Google her, and she's got big old boobs.
I'm looking her up right
She
now.
does, yeah. Can we get like a background, like the background of like a browser, and you guys are just like, yeah, no, this is okay. She like takes it everywhere, and so I was like, this is perfect. Done. Enter the World of Warcraft, and it was great because the boyfriend and I were playing, and it was a thing for us to do. And actually, it really helped me because when I was getting into WoW, like I was extremely depressed. I was on a lot of medication for like pain and like nerve damage, and I was doing chemo, and it was really shitty and really intense. And like hanging out with my friends wasn't very fun. I was 20 at the time, and so I had to grow up right away because I was facing the reality that they were going to like amputate my arm. And at that time, because I was in college, I was $64,000 in debt for my bachelor's in animation. Wow. And I was facing the fact that I would have to drop out, and I would be in debt, and then I would also not have an arm and will never have my degree, and I'll do nothing. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with my life? And so going out and hanging out with my friends was really hard because they're like, oh, I got like super drunk, and I got pregnant because I got drunk and like
had sex
with this dude. And I'm just like, I'm playing World of Warcraft, so that will never happen. And so like, there was just a lot of things that were going on with my friends where I'm just like, I'm not in this world anymore. And I liked the opportunity that WoW had, so I could kind of escape what I was dealing with. And like my guildmates and anybody that I met, like I could be whoever I wanted to be. Like they didn't have to know me for this kind of a thing. So it was a real escape from everything that was kind of going on. And like when things kind of like boiled down, and I was going to have like some of my surgeries to get it removed, like my guildmates were like, they became friends with me on Facebook. Like they text messaged me, like we would have calls. Like It was like this family of people. And I get that it's all on everybody's terms, but because it's on their terms to be involved in someone's life, you have to actually make that extra step. And so like, I met these people all around the world that like gave a shit about me and were like, it's not going to be that bad. We're still here for you. Like, we'll still give you a raid spot if you can't use your mouse. You'll just have to like stand in the fire and die, and then we'll just finish the rest of the raid boss. So
I have a question for you, because I feel like video games have reached a lot of people because of the escapism that comes along with it. And I specifically, when I was younger, had, I just wasn't facing any possible amputations, but I definitely gaming as a way to kind of invent myself, And so I'm curious, how was that for you as you were going through all of these, emotional trials in person? How did you reinvent yourself through gaming? What were you like in your everyday life, and what were you like as Hirona, the Blood Elf stripper?
So actually, I felt that I could be me as in like who I really am online, more so than who I was and who I had to kind of become in my real life. Because in real life, like I had to cater to getting blood work done. I had to cater to my friends. All of a sudden now they're like, like they'll want to go out for a smoke break. And I'm like, all right, cool. So we're going to go on the patio and hang out. And they're like, well, I'm uncomfortable with you sitting with us because you have cancer. And I'm like, that never stopped to you guys before. And shouldn't you guys not be smoking? Like I never smoked, and like I got fucked over. So it's just, there was like this weird dance, and like everyone started to treat me like I was super, super fragile. And like, that I was just this delicate thing. And, you know, the only way people started to relate to me was to tell me about like someone in their life who has it or is dying or has died. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's not all that's going on. So like online, you know, only like some people really knew what was going on, but otherwise, like I could talk shit how I ever wanted, you know, however I want. I had these friendships and it wasn't warped by anything that was going on in my real life. So I got to be who I really wanted to be. It was like who I was never ended online.
Right.
Whereas like my real life, the page got turned and I was in a completely new chapter. And so I think that's another reason why, like, especially for streaming and, you know, starting to stream World of Warcraft and having the community that I have, like everyone for the most part, my community knows, but it's not like a big deal. And it's not a thing that defines who I am. Whereas like if I go home and I'm hanging out with people in real life, like the people I went to school with, it's, so how is that? Like, are you getting checkups? Are you like, are you in remission or like, what's going on? Like, da, da, da. And it's like, no one cares if everyone's like, oh, you got a new job. Like, that's awesome. Like, how is LA? Like, you know, what's this and that? Like and that's why like it kind of, it's a very pivotal thing in my life of doing World of Warcraft. And I've explained to people many times before, playing World of Warcraft and hanging out with those people and having that kind of community and like the guild and all of my friends that I have on there, like they saved me from making some decisions where I wouldn't be here anymore. Sure. And so like, it's a really, really big deal. And like games just, they have a way of like, you care and everybody else is there because they fucking care. And you can be whoever you want to be.
I have another question.
Okay. Was there a point that you remember where you decided like I would rather stay in and hang out with my WoW friends than go out and hang with these people? And like, do you remember that, like turning that corner?
Yes. So every Friday and Saturday night there's a bar called The Rogue that's in Scottsdale, Arizona, and then there's a bar called Ohm, which is on like Central and 3rd in downtown Phoenix. And I was a part of this like social dance scene that's it's okay.
What does that mean?
Dancer.
Like kind of, so like my group of friends, like we would go out and these were like our places and people like they like knew us. And so like, but we would go out and we'd go dancing and that was like a thing. And it's not like line dancing. Like we just went to clubs and like we knew the bouncer and we knew the bartender, we knew the owner, or like someone's band would be playing. And like my whole life shifted where like I was too tired because of therapy to actually go out, and I couldn't drink anymore because if I drank, like I would get really, really sick and I would just have to go home or I'd be puking everywhere and they'd have to like drag me off and like put me in a car and they'd be like, okay, Kristen. And I didn't want to be anyone's burden. And so also I'm like, I could just stay home and like raid and I could do PvP. And when you play PvP, you could talk shit to people. And I'm so excited about like talking shit to people. And I suck. I'm not even that great at it, but I'm really good at talking shit or typing in like help tickets to Blizzard about like why stuff should be broken. But like I role play in every ticket that I've sent into Blizzard, why like my class is broken. I'd be like, Hirona rides up on her horse and looks down upon like the puny, you know, Blizzard Entertainment community service manager. And like, you know, and I'll type out these huge things of whatever and I'll just like send it off. But like it was like going out, but like I went out in Azeroth. Like it's so bad.
It's so good.
Girl, have you ever seen the basin? Ooh.
Yeah. Like go out in front of Duratar and just be like, who wants to duel? And then I get my ass beaten. I'm like, yeah, well, you're dumb and you're a virgin. I said way worse things than that, but.
So all the friends that you made, did they give you the gold that you were searching for? Is that how you met them? From dancing and begging for gold, and then they became your real friends?
So there was a time where this boyfriend I told him he came home and he's like, hey, you want to play WoW? And I'm like, I'm already playing WoW. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, this is like my 10th day playing. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm dancing. And he's like, where are you dancing? And I'm like, I'm on a mailbox in Orgrimmar. and he like shows up and he's playing a female character. And like he walks up and he's just like, and there's this guy that's standing there, and I'm like, this guy just gave me 5,000 gold, which at the time is like 1 trillion gold. And he's like, how did you get in that guild? And so there's this guy that was basically my sugar daddy. I like just by like I was just in there.
I know that game.
And this guy came and I'm just like dancing and I'm like typing in chat and I'm like, if you cheer at me, I'll take one piece of clothing off. And I took off my boots and then they're like, yeah, feet, that's totally what I'm into. And I'm like, yeah, they're sweaty. And like and it just kind of escalated. And this guy's like, you're really funny. Do you want to join my guild? And I go, yeah. I'm like, I'll join your guild. That's great. And so like I join and then he gives me 5K gold. And then my boyfriend logs on and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, honey, I made us money by being a prostitute. And like, and I think he was just kind of like, you shouldn't be playing this game without me because I think you're going to get yourself banned. Or just like, I think he was like,
super jealous.
What are you doing? Like, you have a boyfriend. I'm like, yeah, but Hirona, the paladin, doesn't have a boyfriend, and this is it. Like, this is awesome. And
I paid for these boobies, and I'm gonna use them.
Oh my god, yeah. And like,
it's so good.
Like, there was an addiction of just doing that, of just like trying to coerce people into stupid things or stupid conversations that really started to skyrocket. And I think it kind of made him a bit upset. Because he would just flat out be like, don't listen to her. She's like, this is the games that she plays and you're gonna regret all of it. And they're like, oh, haha. Until it kind of turned into this like joke thing. But like the guild we ended up getting in, like we raided with, like there's people that are in that guild that actually I just favorited a repost of a photo that's 11 years ago that I already liked 11 years ago. Wow. And it's a guildmate of mine that lives out in Canada, and like it was when he first met his wife, and it was like this big, and I'm just like, there's these people that I've known for like ever and I'm still friends with them. And so it's just, and they get it, and like they kind of joined in on the shenanigans and would try and like play female characters and try and get gold out of people, and it was fun.
Yeah. Well,
I've been down that road. I needed some extra gold on the side a few times, so
my side hustle.
To hop in.
I heard you say, "I know that life," and I was just
I know that life. I know that life.
Josh.
Before we move on, you said paladin. So were you retribution? We'll get real technical.
So,
was her boyfriend?
My boyfriend was a priest. And he wanted to play Shadow, but as we were leveling at that time, it was hard to really like dual spec anything because there's no such thing as dual specking. Right. But also like at the end, he wanted to be a Shadow priest, and I wanted to heal eventually because I wanted to have everyone's life in my hands and remind them of that. And then that's the instilling of the control where I'm just like, oh, whatever I want to do. And so when we leveled, I was retribution because he would be able to heal me enough so I could tank things and do damage. And that's what we did through. And then when I got, to level 60, I got all of my healing gear and had to figure out how to actually heal people, and like got all my add-ons and made macros and all sorts of crazy shit just so that we can go kick the shit out of shit on the internet.
The laying of the hands.
Taking the shit out of shit on the internet is one of my favorite pastimes.
Actually, so this new company that I work for, my boss, the creative director of my team, plays WoW. And we were at our Christmas dinner with the owner of this company, and there's like 30 other people in this room, and we're having steaks that are like $90 a plate. And like, it's this insane place. And this is my first day of work. Is after work, we went to this dinner thing, and my boss quiets everybody down and says, I want you guys to know that Kristen is internet famous. And I'm just like, oh my God.
No.
They know that I stream. And then he's like, but not only that, but she plays World of Warcraft. And he's like, Kristen, what was your main class? And I'm just like, there's people there that make so much money and are so important and do all this stuff. And it's my first day. And I'm just like, I'm going to find you on the internet and I'm going to kill you. Like daggers are at him. Like, we don't talk about this in front of everybody or like anything that's going on. And I tell him like, oh, I played a paladin. And he's like, we can't be friends anymore because he's bored. And he thought that I played Alliance because there was only paladins on Alliance first with dwarves. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I started in the Burning Crusade and I played a blood elf. And he's like, why would you play a blood elf? So I told him this whole story that you guys are just hearing. And he just like, what the fuck? He's like, hear everything that's wrong with the internet. And I'm like, like thanks. He has like horde symbols on his stuff in his office. And I'm just like, that's really nerdy. Like, I can't get into that kind of stuff.
Hirona, the woman that eats a bag of salt and vinegar chips and everything that's wrong with the internet.
Yeah. I feel like maybe I'm making it good in little tiny bits here and there.
Yeah, you balance it out.
Right.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Well, I truly appreciate you coming on and sharing your time of game. Mm-hmm. And Brian, I'll pass off to you.
Well, I think that's going to do it for the podcast. If you'd like to follow Hirona on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Hirona. Her Twitter's @HironaLOL. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at backspacenomads. I know it's weird, but at backspacenomads is our Twitter. That's going to do it for Broken Controllers. Thank you so much for coming by, hanging out, and being here on the first broadcast of Broken Controllers. And that's all we got, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.